to a communication breakdown. I had to bring this job forwards. When it's on show, well, visible is a word, visible is a word. Yeah, when it's on show, that's what 800 quid worth of MDF looks like. How about that for detail and a close-up? I don't want it to be boring, but it is paint at the end of the day. At least not making you watch it dry. And that's how you do breadboards. That's how I've done these anyway. So basically, as you can see, I've used the Domino XL. And what we've done is we've replicated this detail, this breadboard end, which was actually on the piece that I'm copying, which is over here. Except I don't know why. I don't understand what these are for, but that's not. They're like, I guess they're screws holding it together. I don't know, and they're just plugs. But normally you'd have dowels in the top for the draw bores, which is what I've done. I used the Domino for it. Actually worked out quite well. Every time I use that Domino or any Domino, I always think, oh yeah, it just does an amazing job. There'll be people that naysay it, but you know, I don't really care. So we've got glue on the central Domino. As you can see, we've got, so stave wise, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 staves, plus your solid piece on the end, then your breadboard. And I've got a Domino into here, 70mm, 70mm, draw board in, and glued completely tight. You see, I've tried to be clever here where the X is. And then these ones are draw board in, but they're slightly loose and they're not glued. So the idea is that the glue here holds this in together and holds that nice and tight. And then the expansion and contraction happens sort of from the middle outwards. And this over time will end up a bit bigger and a bit shorter, a bit bigger and a bit shorter, although it's not actually this that moves, it's this that expands and contracts across the grain. That's it really. So yeah, that looks pretty good. What I've got to do now is I've got to wire brush it, a brass wire brush to give it like a pitted finish. Have I got some stuff here? No. And I've just been doing like mock-ups, different stains and whatnot. So I could have fumed it, but I've never done it. I've only ever used the ammonia, whatever it is for the fuming, and I've actually painted it on. A bit like an acylic acid sort of wash mix really, or like a lime wash, painted it on, sanded it off, and it's come out all right. But I've also, when I was doing that, I've done a white vinegar solution before, and I've messed around with different varnishes and stuff. I like the vinegar solution. You can put a bit of steel wool in with it and stuff, and just make sure you strain that out so it doesn't react with the wood. And it kind of ages it. And I've done a couple of samples of that, and it looks about as close as you're going to get. Fortunately, I've left the sample at home, so I can't show you. But I'll film that in a minute. And I thought I'd discuss the paints. So basically, this is my thunderflies everywhere. These are the shelves for that unit. As you can see, they've been primed now. Decent finish on them, very nice flat finish. What I have been doing is I've had a bench just here with carpet tiles on, and then I tend to go out to the door, sit him in the doorway, sand and do the final sort of like look over there because of the natural light. Or I have these lamps here. I've got another one up in the office as well that were actually underneath the bench on an extension lead. It was stressing me out far too much because I was forever sanding on different benches. As you remember, one of the benches was here. And I just sort of thought, do you know what? Knocked up this little cupboard area here just to try and keep a bit of a painting station. I'm not going to go into detail too much of it. But basically, what I can do now is I can flick those lights on to get a cross light, to get a really, to really make sure that that's... I'll put them on now, but you won't see because I've got too much daylight. But yeah, you can sort of hold them against it. And you can see, it's completely flat. What you can do is you don't always have to, I like the daylight coming in, you don't have to have that open. All these lights up here, they turn off and on. So I can actually, if I've got a broomstick, I can turn that off now. Not going to do it because I can't find an actual broomstick, which is mental. There it is, actually it's there, it's there. But I'm not doing it, I'm trying to get my work done and film a video. Yeah, basically all these lights, the idea is that you can turn them off independently. So basically if I'd have fully finished that unit, I could have that light on, and then I could, just that light alone, it would kind of highlight that for a nice Instagram photo. I've never actually done it, but that was the idea when I set the workshop up, to make them all sort of independent and for maintenance as well. Yeah, so subject to the thunderflies, which are going mad for it, you can see them all there. These lights here, on here, they highlight you know, any imperfections in the finish, it's over the top really. It's not showing very much on the camera, but basically especially if you shut that, I can pull that down, strap it onto there, turn these lights off, then it really highlights it. But to be honest with you, I like the daylight being here. That's enough natural light for me to snag it to. Plus, when I've sanded it all off, although we're on the Festool and the extractor and whatnot, and I wear my mask, I can actually, I've got a compressor rigged up all the time. Try and get some of the dust in this shot, so you can't get it. Just to blow the dust off. Oh, just to blow the dust off. Off the carpet and off the piece, and it goes straight out there. Or I've got the air filtration on. But yeah, basically that's how I'm sort of sanding and finishing my units to 400 grit. Right, paints. So the paints are in here. Basically, in fact, what I'll do, I'll use the Renner system. What I'll do is I'll put the camera down and I'll talk you through the different paints and what I do with them. That's what we'll do. Yep. Oh, welcome to Matt's Paint Bench. Okay, I have a little board for mixing up on. This isn't necessarily new because I quite often have this, but oh my God. Right, welcome to Matt's Paint Bench. Okay, so primer wise, everything I do is water based. Oh, bang! And I use a company called Renner Paints, and they've got 2 primers that are water based that I know of anyway. There might be more, but these are the most common. Renner's a very hard company to find anything out about because they're not necessarily, they're more sort of for the trade and for the industry really. Anyway, so you've got the 641 and the 643. The 643 is a lesser filling primer and the 641 is a higher filling primer. So therefore this is a little bit thicker, this is a little bit thinner. Therefore this sprays a little bit nicer, this needs a little bit of filling out. And also because it's a higher filling primer and a little bit thicker, it dries slower, quite a bit slower. So I always use this one because I believed it was the right thing to do for MDF because it's a high fill, but the slowness in the drying will actually sometimes raise fibres with it being water-based. This raises no fibres, especially with a tight first coat, and it dries really, really quick, but it doesn't fill quite as much. However, the difference is barely any, to be honest with you, and it's probably a little bit counterproductive, I think, is the way I'm going with it, to use the higher filling one, because you can just give more coats of that, using a little bit more paint, but it's drying quicker. Okay, what I have done, and what I always do actually, or have done until recently, is you can catalyse all of these with an M407 catalyst, and that basically improves the workability, the mechanical resistance, and speeds up the drying time. What I've now started doing, because these are actually considered 2K paints, even though they're water-based, is I've now started using a product called, so this is, it gets very confusing. So this is 407. I now use a product called 404. No, 402. 402, bloody hell, got it like that. So 402 is essentially the catalyst for both of these primers. So this will turn these into a 2K and give them a pot life of around about 2 to 3 hours. Sends them absolutely rock solid, and it's actually a hardener by the book. It's called a hardener, not a catalyst. Okay, yeah, hardener for waterborne coatings. Now there's nowhere does it say to use this for the top coats, but well, it does in, let's take that back. A couple of places I've seen it recommending this for top coats, but when you actually speak to Renner direct, this is only on the data sheets, which I have up on the cupboard doors here. This is only on the data sheets for the primers. However, I saw a video a couple of years ago by a guy who was using a top coat called 760, I think. I actually use 762. They're both the water-based top coats, so 760 and 762. I've been told 762 is better. It's a little bit more expensive, so I'm going to assume it's better. I use the 762. He was putting the 402 in with the 762. All of this is, by the way, is you have to measure it. So the 407, which you can put in with the 762, is catalysed at 1%, 0.5 to 1%. This is done at 5 to 10%. I just do 5%, and on this I do about just under 1, don't want to go any more. You can actually use this in the 762. It does exactly, and the 760 I believe, though I've never done it. It does exactly the same thing. It hardens it and makes it go off very, very quick. So it kind of, I guess, theoretically turns this into a 2K paint. So it takes it away from being water-based. And it works an absolute treat. That, yeah, I hope that was sort of interesting. I really do, trust me, I don't want it to be boring, but it is paint at the end of the day. At least not making you watch it dry. But yeah, so essentially, there's a lot of misinformation out there about the Renault products, and I'm fairly confident I'm not misinforming you, because I have spoke to the rep a lot about all of this. Definitely a lot more often than he would like, a little bit more often than I would perhaps like. Every time I speak to him, I'm a little bit more confused, but I've also equally gleaned a bit more information. So you've got 2 water-based primers, 4.3, 4.1, 2 top coats. I only do one, which is a 762, but you've got another one which is called the 760, I believe. All of those can be catalyzed with a M407, which improves stackability, workability, kind of makes them a little bit more chemical resistant and improves the drying time. It's hard to say how much that really affects it. I was using it religiously, then I stopped, and I've gone back to it. Oh, I don't know, but basically it's about 100 quid. It will, it definitely improves the drying time, I will say that, which means you can stack it quicker. That's probably done for 100 quid. I bet that's done about 25, 30 jobs, and there's about half left in there. You can also add the 402 to all of this, again, at 5 to 10%. Now, that will probably do about 30 jobs, I'd have thought, something like that. If you put it in every coat of primer, it's not going to do 30 jobs. It's about a similar cost, I think, as well. I think, anyway, I'm not 100%. But basically, that definitely has an effect. For the primers, makes them bomb-proof, great for filling. For the top coats, again, makes them bomb-proof. You don't really want to be filling with your top coats. But yeah, how about this for professionalism? That's how I've been filming. That's a nice little bit of work for you. Just use the offcut from what I've been making, screw a bit of board on it, you're away. And then there's one more product, sorry, I forgot, and that's the cleaner. So all of this you can clean with water, all of it, yeah, until you use the 402s. I believe you probably can, if you catch it early enough, clean it out with water, but you need a specialist cleaner, which comes in a comical tin, which is this. It's absolutely ginormous. And that is, that is a 460, that cleaner. You need that to clean out any hardened paints, essentially any of the 2K water-based. You need the M460 cleaner. So you're probably looking, in order to stock these and this, you're probably looking at a good couple of 100 quid, maybe even 300 quid to stock all that. Possibly a little bit more. So 300 quid just to have your paint room working how you want it. And then you obviously got to buy the paints. To be honest with you, it's still worth it, because actually these are coming in a little bit cheaper than the out of the tin Faraballs and little greens, and they certainly perform a lot better. The only thing I wish the primer was just I wish they did a different size tin, like a bigger tin, or the primer is quite pricey for how well it performs. But then the second you put the primer with a 402, it outperforms anything on the market that I've used. So, you know, it's all relevant really. Right, I hope that was of interest, and sorry if it wasn't. What am I going to do now? What am I going to do? Actually, I'm going to, well, it doesn't matter what I'm going to do. It's what you see I'm going to do, which I don't know yet, but you will know in a minute. So, hey, they're coming in. And you got smashed in the face by a swallow. That would have been nice, wouldn't it? Stay here, they'll come in. No, never do enough. real time. You're about to find out at the same time as me, although if the time lapses work, you've already seen it. Here we go. It's not actually that bad. Look at that. Oh, I'm glad I weakened it a little bit. Got a little bit of blacking in there I haven't cleaned out. Other than that, pretty good. Pretty good. Couple of black spots. Couple of black bits here, look. But we can get rid of them. Couple on the front there. Right, so what that is, the black spots, that's got a lovely pinky tone to it, hasn't it? Just probably could do with a little bit more. Yeah, well, let's see. Get the other one out. You can't really see the other one, but that's the other one. And that's that one. It's not far off. Yeah, but what that is, what those black spots are, that's when the wire wool reacts. So I've used brass wire wool, but unfortunately a lot of it is just brass plated and just contaminants in the air and stuff as well. You do get it, and because it's been soaked in a mix, which would happen as well if you fume it, it's the same thing, it kind of gets soaked. That top one looks good though, doesn't it? Look, you can see the difference there in the colour where it's overspilled, because you don't see any of that. You don't see that and that. But yeah, all that is just like the metal reacts, even if you use stainless, because it's stainless underneath the brass as well. But even if you use stainless, it will sometimes react because the quality of stainless metals now are so sort of poor. Yeah, it's just water and metal causes like rust. Water and wood, if it's got like a high tannin content, will cause like a bleed out. So you get two different reactions basically that can happen on your oak. Yeah, right, that's it. Looks alright though. I'm quite happy with that. Update. Having a little bit of a nightmare. Basically, this is where I'm up to thus far. This has had 2 vinegars now, and of that solution, and I probably should have just stuck to one because I've pretty much knocked back the second vinegar, which has bleached the wood a little bit in the pores, a bit too much. It's just a bit heavy in the pores. You've got black marks as well, but not black spots. They're just like age-related marks, really. That's what it's doing. It's just, you know, dirtying the wood. So those 2 pieces have had the same process applied as this piece, is that this piece has had the final lacquer put on, and actually it's pretty close to this, which is what I'm matching. Slightly different cuts of oak as well in places. Like there is some crown cutting on this, but the most of the middle is not crown cut, and most of my middle is crown cut. You know, thankfully it's going in the same room, but at the other end of the room, you actually will struggle to see both at the same time. So, but yeah, I think in hindsight, I can't really remember, as ever, I can't really remember what I said to the customer because I can't shut up. So I'm not sure how much I was like, oh yeah, I can 100% match that, or I can get it really close. I can't remember, but we'll find out tomorrow, won't we? Yeah, well, I'm going to get on, give this a coat of lacquer, and then I'm going to tidy up, load the van, really, I suppose. Yeah, and just jump on some other bits and bobs for the rest of the day. And then it's installed tomorrow. Good morning. It's install day. Right, so all the stuff's on the van. I've loaded that about 8 o'clock this morning. You can see that I either wrap stuff in sheets, bubble wrap, or it's got carpet tiles. You know, you just try and keep it as flat as you can, basically. They're the cabinets at the end, and I have this is how I have the van all the time. Got a sustainer drawer there for all the Festool Makita stuff, tracks, levels, mitre saw stand, which I haven't used in about 2 years, and then some sustainer boxes in the other one. They're about 1.6 meters, those drawers. And then this side we have all the time, and underneath there is mitre saw, cleaning kit, and the table saw behind with some trestles. And then this is like a box. Every job I have this. I just have like a box of things that are essential for that job, like some packing pieces, the screws that I think I'm going to need, even though I've got enough in the van. It's just like a fittings box, and then when I'm done, that will go back to the workshop with me. That's my silicons box. Show how interesting that is. Carpet tiles. So what I'll do, this is the loadout. It's not a problem at all. We just got to walk through here. Just that door with every time I walk in and out as well. And we'll just whack carpet tiles all the way through rather than dust sheets. The unit's going to go there. Slight change. Showed me last night. Basically, We were going to have those lights, they're independently fed from the switches over there. We were going to have them turning the lights on in the unit, but now she wants to see what it looks like with the lights. I mean, I think it might look a bit crammed, I don't really know. We'll see, but yeah, that's the plan. Going to go from there really. We're going to see what it looks like with the lights in, and then we'll make a call at some point today whether or not we feed it off the lights or not. I have luckily got enough bits in the workshop to make it work both ways, I think. So I'll put them in that little box actually. Well, I hope I have. Don't know if I have picked up the lights now, but anyway. Basically, we'll get all that to a certain point today, and then when she comes back, she'll decide, hopefully, or even if she wants to look at it tonight, I'm not too bothered. If she wants to look at it tonight, I'll just come back tomorrow because I'm never going to get the TV and that on in a day anyway. So, yeah, anyway, that's it. Let's go. Let's get the install done. Let's get the video on the go.
Right then, first job is find the middle of the room, or in this instance, middle of the two wall lights, and just make sure that looks good when you're sitting down and, you know, everything else sort of lines through like that pendant light. Then I mark the top of the cabinets and the inside of the end panel. That's just simply so that when I scribe in my countertop and scribe in the end panels, you don't see the pencil line that I've marked for my battens. I plug a socket tester in before I start, just to make sure there's no problems with the power. Obviously, I'm hammer drilling into this wall. I'm staying to the zones, but it's just a nice way. It's like a nice audible sort of reminder that the sockets are working the whole time I'm doing it, and you're not catching them, you're not making any faults. I just leave it in my toolbox, and I use it all the time. It's brilliant, really. You can see I'm using 18mm. That's just because A, I stock 18mm a lot, and B, it creates like a nice service void. It's the depth of the skirting board quite often on jobs, and just gives a bit of airflow to the back of the cabinets. What I wasn't happy with at this point, and I had to sort of like make a quick decision, I had to glue these battens to the wall as well as fix them. And that's because every fixing was failing until I you know, well, not failing, but I kept having to change what plugs I was using for each bit of the wall because the wall's a bit of a mash behind. Here's another thing I wasn't very happy about. I normally have got like a flush trim router with a guide plate that does the socket cutouts. But these sockets are all in one line. They're accessibility sockets, or I don't know, they're visually impaired people. I'm not really sure what they are. They're massive, basically. And you can see there I drilled some holes for the if they want to plug something in either side of the unit next to the socket. I've drilled some holes so they can thread a plug through at a later date. Yeah, checking the floors level, just sort of like seeing where I'm going to start from, and then going back on these battens on the wall. What annoyed me was I really wanted to be able to undo these at a later stage and shim them off the wall to get them straight and level, because obviously no plaster wall is truly entwined, so that then my panels would be square to my level cabinets, which you can see obviously I've got them level entwined, and I've got a laser as well, but I like to use the spirit level because it tells you they've got a nice straight line, which is as important. Here I'm scribing in the plinths, scribe all three in one go, nip outside, cut them, and then you can see they're on dominoes, and I just mitomate those on. That's simply because sometimes you might want to pop them off at a later stage to get to a light driver. In this instance, you know, we might want to pop them off in, you know, like, you know, a year's time if she decides to change the floor, and we can tuck the floor under there. So, you know, there's no real reason to fully secure them on. Just a bit of dab of glue behind the dominoes and be able to pop them off at a later stage. Same with the face frames as well, because again, if she changes the floor, we can take those off and send them down a bit, or, you know, send the whole unit up or whatever. Yeah, so as you can see now, it's a case of getting the worktop on. All of this so far is sort of like, you know, relatively easy. I've just eased a bit of the hole there I created for the cables, but all of this obviously is pretty straightforward. It's just gone on in the work. It's been together in the workshop already, so it's pretty much there. You can see I'm checking my battens for level. This is where I'm annoyed. This is where I've realised, because I can't undo them, I was just thinking, is there a way around it? There's not. I've had to glue the panels to the wall. They do get screwed as well, but obviously when you screw it through the glue, it pulls in. It's not straight. I wanted to get the battens to be straight, so I have to put these little melamine offcuts in. They're just 0.5mm increments basically to get it as flat and as straight as I can, so that when I screw my end panels in, because it's a nice neat join I've created, that doesn't get scribed in, that I've got a nice straight join. And it just felt a bit bodgy at this point, doing it in front of the customer, so obviously wasn't that bothered. But the reality is, I wanted this piece of furniture it's obviously got to be fitted, but I didn't want to rely on glue going back to the wall to straighten it. I always feel like that's a bit of a bodge, like I'm dabbing it on. But I just couldn't find another way. I couldn't really rely on the fixings in the wall. And I spent long enough trying different plasterboard fixings as well. Yeah, such is really. Anyway, here I'm putting on the end panels. They're dominoed and pocket holed on the back. And then each piece has got another 18mm back, which you see me putting on here. And I just glue and clamp those on because obviously the first one is secured. And then what I do, because I've got the shelf pin holes, I'll whack a couple of little 3x16mm screws in those shelf pin holes just in case the glue fails, which we both know it won't. And then again, it's just a case of dropping in the components that have already gone together in the workshop. Again, just on dominoes and pocket hole screws, really is the best and simplest way to do this sort of stuff, as long as you can hide the fixing, obviously, which I spend a lot of time when I'm in the design process making sure I can. Then we're using the scribing tool. We're scribing each panel. That's a lot of back and forth. As you can imagine on this job, it's, 4 panels, I think. So that's 4 panels. You're in and out probably twice of each panel. Sometimes I do it in the room, but because it was so quick and easy to get in and out, I just did that outside the front door. No rain either, so nice, easy job of it. Yeah, and you can see I used a Festool jigsaw with a upward cutting blade. Is it upward? A blade that cuts on the upstroke, and I cut upside down basically, so I can always see the line I'm cutting. I find that just the best way, basically. Little hole there for a cable. Sometimes touch it up with a plane. I actually put the jigsaw slightly cut on an angle as well, so it's slightly beveled, just so you take the back of the cut off. That's sort of common practice, really, I think, for scribes. Yeah, and then again, clamped on, glued. Always leave your level on the top if it's bob on, just in case that customer comes home and they want to look at your level. If it's bob on, straight and flat, leave that up there. Don't be afraid. It's all part of the service, really. This bit, putting the lights on. Now, I really wish I would fit the lights when it's in the workshop. I did a trial run, but I didn't fit and cut each one and do the connections, and that's really what slows it down. So this bit, I was a bit like, I don't really know how long this is going to take. As it goes, it probably took me about an hour to get them lights in, and also in the process of getting them on, you've got to make sure you don't have any light spill coming in over the top, and I think you'll see in a minute there is a bit of light spill, and I think I might have addressed it off camera. But basically, you've just got to go along a bit of clear silicone, a bit of tape in places, just to make sure the excess LED light doesn't shine out the top of the cabinet as such. All my miters are pre-done. That's something I've been doing for the last couple of years on my furniture. I don't bother. Try not to, have to get the miter saw out. So I just scribe the end pieces in, if you like, with the either with a jigsaw. In this case, I use the flush saw. I just think it makes life a little bit easier if you can just rely on your jigsaw and a handsaw. Yeah, and then again, something else here I probably should have done in the workshop. That was drilled the holes for the cables for the TV, but I don't know, it just feels a bit like it's nicer when you got the TV in front of you and the cables in front of you to get the right size hole. Last thing you want to do is drill a hole in the cabinet piece and then take it to the job and you've done it upside down or something, which I don't think I'd have done in this instance. But yeah, it would have sped the job up if I'd have had all this ready. Fit the soundbar for a bit of chit chat. Right, and as you can see, I'm just finalising the light connections here, and that's, I think, when I'm sorting out the light spill. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, you can see there's a bit coming out the top. There's a lot coming out the top. But yeah, I have to go along with a bit of clear silicone, a bit of tape, just to address that, just to make sure, basically, that when the room's completely dark, you don't want to see that spill out the top. It just looks a bit unprofessional. And then I'll turn the lights off. I do not like having the lights on while I'm working on it, because I want the wow factor. I want it all to be finished in one go. Another mistake I made here, which I was a little bit upset about, I normally number all my hinges and number all my doors, which I did do that in this instance, because obviously everything here has already been pre-hung. So everything has been pre-hung, numbered, or labelled in whatever way I've got. I've got a couple of different systems. Sometimes I drill a little hole in the bottom of the door for door 1, 2 for 2, 3. You know, if you're never going to see the bottom, it's just a tiny little 3mm hole. In this instance, I wrote inside the hinge cutouts, and I wrote on the hinges with a marker pen, which you can just rub off. I think I put the cabinets the wrong way around. I think that's the mistake I made, or I marked it wrong. But basically, not one door went on and shut in the right way like it should have done. I have also got a nasty habit, and I'd love to know if anyone else does this, but I mark left when I mean right, and right when I mean left sometimes. And it is obviously the most stupid thing to do, but for some reason my brain just does it. I just mark it the opposite way. Yeah, dropping the shelves in. Yeah, and this is the bit that you're sort of fighting all day for, and if you get it right, it flies in this bit. Just going to do a little bit of last minute check-in, making sure the doors are right, double checking that little bit of light spill that you probably didn't quite get hold of. And you don't necessarily want all your tools out, but you don't really want to commit to putting them all away. And then really it's just the clean, just making sure that it's spotless, it looks great for your photos, the customer's happy, job's a good one.
Do you like that? I like it. Anyway, I think it looks nice. I like the tones of it. I think it looks really quite special. I love this look of the oak, this like distressed oak against this green. Second job I've done in this colour, Vert de Terry. Yeah, so I love the breadboard ends with the dowels in. I think they look good. I think they look pretty special, to be honest with you. In fact, secret squirrel, secret mission. I've showed it before in the workshop, but now we're in the customer's house. This is what we're matching, this sort of look. Picture that in your mind, and then get back over here quick as you can. Thankfully it is on the other side of the room, and that's what I've done. I'm happy. I am happy with it, and I'm definitely my own worst critic. Unless you want to have a go. And yeah, basically, I love this little arrangement with the lights hidden in there, and this little sort of like shelf peg thing I've done before. I think I've done a nice job on that again this time. Starting to create a little bit of sort of unity with that bit across some of my furniture, which I wasn't really looking to do when I started, because most of my stuff is kind of matched on what the customer wants. But I've included these little details like that, and the suggestion of that little lower box, this little miter box, that's come out pretty well. You know, it looks nice in there, nice and tight fit, nice and distressed. Yeah, waffle. I do like this as well. This little contrasting piece against the oak. I haven't got a shelf in this one because there's just so much gubbins are going to go in there. What I don't like is this. I've just had to cut. I mean, it is a nice, neat hole. I've sometimes before had a router bit, a template for the sockets, or I've put brushes over them in previous videos. But unfortunately here, it's the sockets, they're like disability sockets. I don't know why, or they're just a special sort of socket, and they're massive. So basically you can't cover it with anything. So I've just had to do a big old hole, and they've got a lot of problems with the sockets. So I think they're going to have to come off. There seems to be like a neutral fault with them. Anyway, I'm not an electrician, so I'm not getting involved in that. But yeah, I think it looks nice. Don't know why I'm filming me. But yeah, that's it. This is the bit where I've spoken about before. It's time to go, Matt. We're done. We're finished. Me and this bit of furniture have had our journey together. It's nearly 5 o'clock. I've got to say goodbye to it. Spent weeks looking at it, just over different bits, you know, drying times and stuff. Spent weeks looking at that oak, trying to get it right. In reality, I have. It's been probably 2 weeks that I was messing around, thinking about the oak or looking at it, looking at samples. And now it's time to say au revoir. I was in tune with the Vert de Terry paint, weren't it? Right, yeah. Hope you like it. See you on the next one.